Ready? Begin.
This is Experienced RC. This is going to be the video of dyeing my Slash chassis. Now, you're going to need some things. First, you're going to need your RIT dye. I've got Royal Blue. This is the powder form. You can also get liquid form. It doesn't really matter. The liquid form comes in a bigger bottle, so you probably get a little bit more. I've got a pot. Now, because I don't feel like spending $15 on buying another pot or a pot that's big enough to hold my chassis in it, I'm just using a pot that I have. This is Teflon coated, and I do not know if it will dye Teflon coated pans, but we will find out, and I'll let you guys know. I don't think it's going to be a big deal if it does. It's black, blue, you're really not going to tell the difference, and I don't think RIT dye is toxic. I mean, its main ingredient is, let's see, its main ingredient is I don't know, but I feel that it's not toxic, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. But don't go and eat a packet of this just because I said that it's not toxic, because I'm not sure. So if you go and eat a packet and you die or go to the hospital, it's on you. I'm going to be doing something I like to call the transfer method, where I'm actually going to heat the dye in this pot and transfer it over to this big pan. I got this from the dollar store. Cost $1. This typical tin cooking pan. Put the chassis in there, any other parts that you want to dye, and pour the dye in there with the water and let it soak. Now, because I don't like wasting stuff, I'm actually going to use just an empty container that you find, and I'm actually afterwards, after the dye cools down in the water, I'm going to pour it into a container and actually save it, because I think possibly you could reheat it and use it for other times that you want to dye things. So you could just put it on a shelf and leave it there. Just make sure you mark it as non-drinkable. Now, the first thing you want to do to start out is clean your body. I'm going to use some degreaser because I put grease on various spots to keep certain keep rust off of bolts and stuff, like in the front where the bulkheads, where I put a lot of grease to keep those screws from rusting. So I'm going to have to degrease that and clean all the dirt off, remove any stickers, remove any adhesive from double-sided taping, or that's going to get in the way of the dye going into the body. I'm also going to dye my transmission cover, and you have to go through the same process. I'm going to have to first open this and take all my gearings out, take my bearings out, and I'm going to have to clean this. Because I am taking this apart now to dye it, I'm also going to do a video on servicing it. So I'm going to re-lube it, and I'll show you guys how to put it back together and clean it and re-lube it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Alright guys, this is the chassis dye. We've got the water on the stove. I'm going to let it get up to a boil. Then I'm going to add the RIT dye. At first I was going to go with a simmer, but because I am transferring it, a lot of heat will be lost, so I feel that to keep it up to a high temperature, I should get the water up to a boil and then transfer it over to this pot. As you see, the pan that I'm going to put the chassis in is in a blue storage bin to avoid spills, and so that I don't dye everything in case I drop something. I've got the chassis cleaned, degreased. I took apart the trans. I degreased everything on the inside. Had some bad news when I took it apart. A lot of the gears are really rusted. I decided one day to take it out in the snow and forgot that they had salted the parking lot, and I guess that seeped into my trans case, and now it's all over the place, and it's rusting, and a lot of it appears to be surface rust, so I should be able to just scrape it off, but I still don't like rust on my stuff. So we're just waiting for us to get up to heat, and we're gonna start. Alright, so we've heated the water, and while off video camera I took and I raised this bin up because I realized it was going to be impossible for me to take that entire pot of water, fill to the brim, and pour it down all the way, bending into this pot without splashing or burning myself. So I raised the bin up, and I poured the liquid in there. As you can see, it's steaming because it's really warm. I actually didn't boil it, got it up to a simmer, and the pieces are submerged right now. They've been in there for about a minute. Ta-da! Teflon does not die. It came out fine. I just made sure I rinsed it right after I finished. If you don't want anything dyed, make sure you do that. As soon as they get touched by this dye, make sure you wash it, or it's going to become blue, or whatever color you have. So I'm going to take this out after about another 3 minutes and see how. Alright, it's been about 45-50 minutes, and the parts still aren't where I want them to be. Right now, this is what they look like. I took them out the dye. It seems that the dye is really not taken on in certain parts, and it appears that there is still some type of grease or something inhibiting the dye from sinking into the body, especially with the back half of this. There's weird transition areas. So I took it out the water, and I'm actually cleaning it with 409 and some degreaser and scrubbing it to see if I can get whatever's residues on it, keeping the dye out off. While I'm doing that, I'm reheating the dye. I also added a little bit more to see if it could help this process go a little bit faster. I'm just going to try this time to get it up to an actual boil before I add it to the water. That should really cut down the time left to get this to the color I really want it to. Other than that, the process has been pretty nice. I learned that RIT dye does go very nice onto your skin, and I'll probably end up being blue for the next week and a half. So make sure you wear gloves, and that's pretty much it. Alright, we're done. It's been around an hour 25 minutes. That second heat up in adding more RIT dye really sped things up. I should have did it from the get-go, but it came out really nice. Adding more dye and reheating it got rid of those weird transition areas on it, and now it looks like one uniform color all over with no really awkward spots on it. Came out a nice royal blue. I got all that grease off the back trans case covers. I got all that grease off the outer side, so the dye stuck in a lot better now, and it matches. Looks factory made. So successful dye job. As you can see, I'm going to wait for this to cool down, and then that container that I showed you earlier, I'm going to pour all this in here and put it in one of my bins or in a shelf and save it. And if I need it later, pour it back into the pan and reheat it. You can see spills and stuff, but being smart, this container being blue, you can't really see it, and now instead of my kitchen floor being blue, this container is blue, and all I gotta do is wipe it up. So that was Experience RC project number 1 with chassis dye, and it ended up successful. Hope the other ones go that way.